The ogre would build the bridge in one night. The price was both of the carpenter's eyes. There was a river in that country that no bridge could cross. Every spring the water came down off the mountains black and roaring, and whatever the villagers built across it, the river took. They had built with pine. They had built with cedar. They had hauled great stones up from the valley and sunk them in the bed. By summer there was never anything left but a few splintered posts. So the people had to wade at the shallows, holding their children over their heads. And nearly every year the river took somebody's father, or somebody's daughter, and did not give them back. At last the village sent for the finest carpenter in the country. He came, and he stood on the bank and watched the water go past for a long time, and then he said he would build them their bridge. He had never once failed at anything he had put his hands to, and he did not mean to begin here. The villagers cheered him, and he set his men to felling timber that same afternoon. They drove the piers down deep and laid the great beams across. By evening half a bridge stood over the river, and the carpenter went to his bed very well pleased with himself. In the night the rain came. When he walked down at first light there was nothing over the river at all. Only the water, going past, as though he had never been there. He sat down on the wet stones with his head in his hands. He had given his word in front of the whole village, and now he had nothing left to keep it with. Then the river bulged. Something rose up out of the middle of it, taller than the trees, dark red and streaming, with two horns and a voice like millstones grinding. "Carpenter," said the ogre, "you want a bridge? I can give you one that this river will never take, and I can have it standing before the sun comes up." The carpenter asked what it would cost. The ogre smiled, and it was not a good smile. "Your eyes," it said. "Both of them. Nothing else." Nothing living could bridge that river in a single night. The carpenter was tired, and he was proud, and he said yes to be rid of it. The ogre sank into the water without another word. He hardly slept. Before dawn he came down the path to the bank, and he stopped where he stood. A bridge stood over the river. Not a plank of it stirred. The piers went down into that furious water as if they had grown out of the riverbed, and the boards were fitted so close you could not have slid a knife between them. The whole village came running. Children raced across it and back again, shouting, and the old people touched the rail and could not believe it. Nobody had ever seen such work. And then the water opened behind him. "I built it in a night," said the ogre. "Now give me your eyes." The carpenter begged. He had a wife. He had his hands and his trade. He asked for one more day, and offered the ogre anything else in the world. The ogre laughed until the water shook. "Very well," it said. "I like a game. Tell me my name by sunrise and the debt is forgiven. Get it wrong, and I take them." He asked every soul in the village, and not one of them knew any ogre's name. When the dark came he could not sit still, so he went up into the hills alone. Deep in the forest he stopped. Somewhere ahead of him, through the trees, small voices were singing. He crept up and looked down into a hollow. Little ogres were dancing round a fire, red and green, with horns no bigger than a thumb, and they sang the same words over and over. Hurry home, Oniroku, hurry home with the carpenter's eyes." He stood in the dark saying that name to himself again and again so that he could not lose it. At sunrise the ogre rose out of the mist beside the bridge and held out its enormous hand. The carpenter guessed wrongly twice, and the ogre grinned wider each time. Then he looked up and said it. "Oniroku." The ogre's face fell open, and it burst apart like mist off the water and was gone. The bridge is still standing, and they still say a name is a dangerous thing to leave lying about. Like, comment, subscribe, and watch the next tale.